The holographic display cast a soft blue glow across Dr. Sarah Hayes's face as she studied the artifact floating before her. The translucent rendering rotated slowly, its intricate patterns pulsing with an energy signature unlike anything recorded in the Stellar Alliance's vast scientific archives. After 15 years of studying xenoarchaeology on distant worlds, she might have finally found something revolutionary. "Mom, look at this part." Luna's excited voice drew Sarah's attention to her daughter's workstation. At 12, Luna already showed the same passionate curiosity that had driven Sarah to the stars. Her dark curls bounced as she pointed to a section of the artifact's base structure. The quantum resonance patterns, they're not random. They're repeating in a Fibonacci sequence. Sarah moved closer, her heart swelling with pride. Where other Alliance scientists saw Luna's presence in the lab as an irregularity, Sarah knew better. Her daughter's fresh perspective had helped crack 3 major discoveries in the past year alone. Good catch, sweetheart. What else do you notice? The research facility on Proxima Beta was state-of-the-art, a joint project between Earth and the Stellar Alliance. Officially, it represented the harmonious scientific cooperation between humanity and the dozen elder species that had welcomed them into the galactic community 30 years ago. Unofficially, it was a constant reminder of humanity's junior status. A soft chime announced the arrival of Chief Researcher Zyxtal, his crystalline form refracting light across the laboratory walls. Sarah straightened, recognizing the barely concealed disdain in his harmonic tones. "Dr. Hayes, the Council requests an update on your findings." His faceted eyes flickered toward Luna with obvious disapproval. "We've made a breakthrough," Sarah replied, gesturing to the holographic model. "The artifact isn't just a power source, it's a key to understanding quantum slipstream technology. If we're right, it could revolutionize interstellar travel." "Impossible," Zyxtal dismissed. "Our species spent millennia perfecting current drive systems. You've been studying these ruins for barely a decade." Luna spoke up, her young voice clear and confident. "But that's exactly why we saw it. We're not bound by traditional theoretical frameworks. Look at the resonance patterns." Silence. Zyxtal's crystalline form pulsed with anger. "This is not a place for children's games." Sarah stepped between them, her voice steady but sharp. "My daughter has earned her place here through proven contributions, Chief Researcher. The data supports our findings." The argument was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Red warning lights flashed as the facility's AI announced, "Warning. Quantum containment field instability detected. Emergency protocols initiated." Sarah's blood ran cold. The containment fields were her design. They couldn't fail without deliberate interference. She turned to Luna. "Evacuation protocol now, sweetheart. Meet me at..." The explosion started at the quantum research core, a blinding flash of blue-white energy that shattered through supposedly impenetrable barriers. Sarah was thrown against a wall, her head spinning as emergency force fields snapped into place. Through blurred vision, she saw Luna trapped on the other side, reaching out toward her. "Mom." The secondary explosion was worse. Hours later, Sarah stood in the facility's ruins, her face expressionless as Alliance investigators declared it a tragic accident. Her hands clutched Luna's favorite notebook, filled with brilliant observations and drawings of alien artifacts. The last page contained an unfinished sketch of today's discovery. They found evidence of tampering 2 days later. Subtle, professional, nearly undetectable, but there. The Alliance Council expressed their deepest regrets and promised a thorough investigation. They offered compensation, diplomatic platitudes, assurances that nothing like this would ever happen again. They didn't understand what they'd done. Sarah's message to Earth Command was brief: "They murdered my child. They murdered all our children's futures." She attached the data proving deliberate sabotage, along with her complete research findings on the artifact. Earth's response was equally brief: "Come home, Dr. Hayes. We understand now." As her ship broke orbit, Sarah watched Proxima Beta recede into the distance. The Alliance thought they knew humanity from their 30 years of contact. They thought they understood Earth's technological capabilities from their carefully monitored joint projects. They were wrong. For 3 decades, humanity had played the role of eager students, grateful to be accepted into the galactic community. They had hidden their true advances, developed in secret while showing only carefully curated versions to their mentors. Not out of malice or fear, but because history had taught them caution. Now, as Sarah's ship vanished into quantum space using drive technology the Alliance thought impossible, she knew that mask would finally drop. Humanity had hoped to reveal their true capabilities gradually, to avoid exactly this kind of conflict. But they had killed a child. They had killed Luna. The Alliance would learn too late that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability. It was the terrible, unstoppable force of their love, and the fury of their grief. The war that followed would reshape the galaxy. The Stellar Alliance High Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Ventrix delivered his security briefing. His phosphorescent tentacles rippled with confusion as he studied the latest intelligence reports. Impossible, he muttered, echoing the word that had become all too common in Alliance discussions about humanity. They've completely withdrawn. Every human ship, every diplomat, every civilian, gone within 48 hours of the Hayes incident. Supreme Counselor Marixis, her scaled form towering over the others, leaned forward. Gone where? Our sensor networks cover every approved quantum route. That's just it, Ventrix responded. They didn't use approved routes. They simply vanished. Our most advanced tracking systems couldn't follow them. In the shadows of Earth's war room, 12 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Sarah Hayes stood before the assembled Joint Chiefs. The holographic display showed the Alliance's reaction to humanity's disappearance in real time. The artifact wasn't just a power source, she explained, her voice steady despite the grief that still threatened to overwhelm her. It was a blueprint for the quantum web, a network of interconnected slipstream corridors that the precursors used to traverse the galaxy. The Alliance never fully understood the ruins they built their civilization upon. But Luna saw the pattern. General Zhang nodded grimly. And they killed her for it. Not directly, but because the discovery threatened their technological superiority. He turned to the assembled leaders. Operation Silent Thunder is ready. The fleets are in position using the quantum web corridors. Our infiltration units have mapped every critical Alliance facility. We await only the final authorization. President Chin stood, her expression resolute. The Alliance believes they know us. They've seen what we wanted them to see, an eager, technologically inferior species grateful for their guidance. They dismissed our warnings about Luna's death because they don't understand what our children mean to us. She paused, looking at each person in the room. Show them. Across Alliance space, the first signs were subtle. Key communication relays mysteriously failed. Defense platforms went dark. Strategic shipping lanes reported strange gravitational anomalies. The Alliance attributed it to technical glitches, solar fluctuations, cosmic phenomena, anything but the truth. The truth revealed itself 3 days later. Admiral Ventrix was in mid-sentence during another security briefing when the chamber's holographic displays exploded with emergency signals. Not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of simultaneous alerts from across Alliance space. Human warships emerged from quantum corridors that shouldn't exist, their designs unlike anything the Alliance had seen. They struck with surgical precision, their weapons bypassing shields calibrated for known technology. Within 6 hours, 30% of the Alliance's military infrastructure was disabled or destroyed. There were no demands, no ultimatums, no communication at all. Just the silent, methodical dismantling of the Alliance's defensive capabilities. The few sensor readings they managed to capture showed technology far beyond what humanity had ever revealed. Quantum drives that didn't follow known physical laws. Weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. Stealth systems that made ships virtually undetectable until the moment they struck. How? Marixis demanded, her scales pale with shock. How did they hide this level of advancement? The answer came in a single transmission, broadcast simultaneously to every Alliance world. Dr. Sarah Hayes's face appeared on every screen, her expression containing no anger, no hatred, only an infinite sadness. "You taught us caution," she said simply. "When we found our first precursor ruins on Mars, we saw how you treated younger species who made similar discoveries. So we showed you what you expected to see, grateful students learning at the feet of their betters. We wanted to prove ourselves worthy of true partnership through patience and humility." Her voice hardened. "But you proved that technological superiority means nothing without wisdom. You killed my daughter because you feared what her brilliant mind might discover. Now you'll learn what humanity is truly capable of when we stop holding back." The transmission ended, replaced by a rotating hologram of Luna's last, unfinished sketch of the artifact, now the symbol painted on every human warship. In the war room, President Chin watched the Alliance's mounting panic with grim satisfaction. "Phase 2, she ordered. General Zhang nodded. "Deploying ghost fleets now. Operation Silent Thunder proceeding to full engagement." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of what they'd unleashed. The Alliance had never understood that humanity's technological restraint wasn't from weakness, but from wisdom. They had spent decades preparing for a war they hoped never to fight, developing technologies they hoped never to use. Now those hopes, like Luna, were dead. And the galaxy would never be the same. High above Earth, quantum space rippled as humanity's main battle fleet emerged. 10,000 ships of a class the Alliance had never seen, powered by technologies they couldn't comprehend. Their mission was not conquest or revenge, but something far more terrible: education. The Alliance was about to learn why every human culture had legends warning about the dangers of harming children. They were about to understand why humanity had hidden its true strength, not out of fear, but out of mercy. Silent Thunder was just the beginning. The crystalline spires of Astralax Prime, crown jewel of the Alliance's achievement, shimmered in the light of 3 suns. Or rather, their wreckage did. Supreme Counselor Marixis stood in the emergency bunker, watching through quantum-reinforced windows as human forces systematically dismantled the planet's orbital defense network. "We could have prevented this," Ambassador Kthal said softly, his feathered crest drooping with exhaustion. "When Dr. Hayes presented evidence of sabotage, we should have." "Should have what?" Marixis snapped. "Admitted that elements within our own scientific community murdered a child out of professional jealousy? Acknowledged that we've been patronizing humanity for decades?" "Yes." The simple answer came from General Raxvor, the Alliance's most decorated military commander. "Exactly that. Because now we're learning the true cost of our pride." On the tactical display, another defense platform disappeared, destroyed with the same surgical precision that characterized all human strikes. No civilian casualties. No collateral damage. Just the methodical elimination of any military capability that could threaten Earth or its allies. In her private laboratory aboard the SS Nemesis, Dr. Sarah Hayes studied the latest battlefield data. The quantum web technology derived from Luna's final discovery had transformed warfare. Alliance ships, trapped in normal spacetime, could only watch helplessly as human vessels phased in and out of reality around them. "Dr. Hayes?" Captain Maria Chin, the president's daughter and commander of the Nemesis, entered the lab. "We've intercepted some interesting communications. The Proxians and Centaurians are considering breaking from the Alliance. They're asking for separate peace negotiations." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. The Alliance was fracturing exactly as predicted. And the hardliners? The Draconis Confederation is pushing for total war. They're mobilizing their deep space fleet, including... Maria hesitated. "Including planet-killer weapons." Sarah's hands stilled over her console. The Alliance had always claimed such weapons didn't exist. Another lie. "Show me." The tactical display shifted, revealing massive ships emerging from hidden bases in the Draconis sector. Their power signatures were unlike anything they'd encountered so far. "They're desperate," Maria observed. "Using these weapons would violate every treaty they've ever signed." "Fear makes people do terrible things," Sarah replied, thinking of the explosion that took Luna. "Patch me through to Earth Command." The quantum communication was instantaneous. President Chen's hologram appeared, her expression grave as she reviewed the data. Your recommendation, Dr. Hayes? Sarah took a deep breath. We need to implement Archimedes' protocol. Silence fell across the quantum link. Archimedes' protocol was humanity's ultimate deterrent, a weapon developed in secret that could manipulate the quantum web itself. It had never been tested outside simulation. The casualties would be minimal, Sarah interrupted. That's why we designed it this way. It targets military quantum technology only. Their civilian infrastructure will remain intact. And you're certain? The president's eyes were keen. This isn't about revenge? Sarah met her gaze steadily. Luna would never want that. This is about preventing greater bloodshed. The Draconis fleet must be stopped before they deploy those planet killers, or millions will die. Back on Astrolax Prime, the Alliance Council's debate was interrupted by a strange phenomenon. Every quantum-based system, from weapons to communications to basic power systems, simply stopped. Across Draconis space, their mighty fleet went dark, massive ships drifting powerless in the void. Emergency systems prevented total catastrophe, but their military capability was effectively neutralized. The human fleet emerged from quantum space around Astrolax Prime. This time, they transmitted on all frequencies, their message clear and impossible to ignore. We could have been partners, Sarah's voice echoed across every Alliance world. We could have shared our discoveries, advanced together. Instead, your fear and pride led you to murder a child who only wanted to understand the universe's mysteries. The transmission continued, revealing the full extent of human technological advancement, not as a boast, but as a lesson. We had our true capabilities because we wanted to earn your trust, not your fear. We developed these weapons hoping never to use them. Even now, we strike with precision to minimize casualties. But make no mistake, President Chen's voice joined the broadcast. Any use of planet-killer weapons will be met with total technological shutdown across all responsible systems. You've lost this war. The only question is how many more must suffer for your pride. In the Alliance bunker, Marixus watched the human fleet with new understanding. They had never faced an enemy like this, one that could have destroyed them utterly but chose restraint, one that fought with surgical precision while maintaining ethical boundaries. They're not just more advanced, she realized aloud. They're what we should have been. The price of the Alliance's pride would be its transformation. Whether they were ready or not, change was coming to the galaxy. And watching from her lab aboard the Nemesis, Sarah Hayes whispered a quiet promise to her daughter's memory. Your discovery will bring enlightenment, Luna. Not destruction. I promise. The refugee ship tumbled through quantum space, its systems failing as it fled the battle zone. In the cramped medical bay, Dr. Sarah Hayes worked desperately to stabilize a young Centaurian child, her crystalline form cracked from the impact of debris during their escape. Stay with me, little one, Sarah whispered, applying quantum resonance therapy to the fractures. The child's mother watched anxiously, her own form pulsing with worried light patterns. The ESS Nemesis had intercepted the civilian vessel just before its core went critical. Now, hundreds of Alliance refugees filled its emergency quarters, families who had lost everything in the fighting between hardliner forces and those seeking peace. Captain Maria Chen entered the medical bay, her expression troubled. We've got another problem. The Draconis forces are using civilian populations as shields. They're moving their remaining military installations into heavily populated areas. Sarah's hands stilled over the Centaurian child. They think we won't strike civilian targets. They're right, Maria replied firmly. We're not them. In the Alliance's Emergency Command Center on Astrolax Prime, Supreme Counselor Marixus faced her own crisis. The holographic displays showed the fracturing of their once mighty civilization in real time. The Proxians had already signed a separate peace treaty with Earth. The Centaurians were in negotiations. And the hardliners. They're going to get us all killed, Ambassador Kthal raged, his feathers bristling. The Draconis Confederation is willing to sacrifice our entire civilization rather than admit defeat. No, General Raxfor interrupted, displaying tactical data. Look at the human response. They're evacuating civilians from combat zones, Not just their allies, but even populations loyal to the hardliners. They're showing more concern for our people than our own leadership. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Sarah reviewed the latest intelligence with President Chen's hologram. The quantum web is revealing something interesting, she explained, displaying complex energy patterns. The Draconis aren't just using civilian shields, they're preparing something big. The energy signatures suggest. She trailed off, her face paling. They're trying to weaponize the quantum web itself. If they succeed, it could tear reality apart across multiple star systems. Can we stop them? Yes, Sarah replied. But we'll need help from within the Alliance. There are still good people there, people who understand what's at stake. The president nodded. Make it happen. The next phase of the war unfolded unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human forces began coordinating with Alliance peace factions, conducting joint humanitarian operations alongside strategic strikes. They shared medical technology, food supplies, and evacuation support, even as they continued dismantling military capabilities. In her quarters, Sarah found herself staring at Luna's notebook again. One particular page caught her eye, a sketch of an Alliance family Luna had befriended, accompanied by her daughter's observations about their culture and dreams. We have to save them, Mom, she had said. Not just study them. Everyone has something to teach us. A chime interrupted her thoughts. The Centaurian child from earlier stood in her doorway, her crystalline form now fully healed. She approached hesitantly, holding out a small object, a crystal sculpture she had formed herself, depicting two figures, one human, one Centaurian, holding hands. Thank you, the child said in carefully practiced English, for helping us understand. Sarah accepted the gift, feeling tears well up. This was Luna's real legacy, not the technological breakthroughs, but the bridges built between species. On Astrolax Prime, Marixus made her decision. Against the hardliners' orders, she began broadcasting the truth to all Alliance worlds, the full story of Luna's death, the evidence of sabotage, humanity's repeated attempts at peaceful resolution, and the Draconis plan to weaponize the quantum web. We face a choice, she declared. Continue down this path of destruction, or embrace the change we should have welcomed 30 years ago. Humanity has shown us both their power and their mercy. It's time we showed them our wisdom. Across Alliance space, populations began rising up against hardliner control. The Draconis Confederation found itself increasingly isolated as more species chose peace over pride. Aboard the Nemesis, Sarah received the reports with mixed emotions. The war was entering its final phase, but the real challenge lay ahead, building a lasting peace. Luna would be proud, Maria said softly, joining her at the observation window. We're not just winning the war. We're winning hearts and minds. Sarah watched as another refugee ship docked, carrying families seeking sanctuary. She always said the greatest discoveries come from working together. Maybe now the galaxy will learn that lesson. The quantum web pulsed with new energy patterns, not of weapons or warfare, but of hope. The echoes of mercy were drowning out the drums of war, one rescued child at a time. The quantum web shimmered with unprecedented activity as the combined Human Alliance Peace Fleet approached the Draconis home system. Dr. Sarah Hayes stood on the Nemesis's bridge, watching the real-time calculations of what they faced. They've modified their planet-killer weapons, she reported, her voice tight. They're using corrupted versions of Luna's equations. The quantum resonance could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Captain Maria Chin nodded grimly. How many civilian populations are still in the combat zone? Too many. Sarah's hands flew over the holographic controls. The Draconis leadership has essentially taken their own people hostage. They're threatening to activate the weapons if we advance. The final confrontation had been building for weeks. As more Alliance species joined the Peace Coalition, the Draconis Confederation had grown increasingly desperate. Their latest weapon threatened not just defeat, but mutual annihilation. In the Alliance Peace Fleet, Supreme Counselor Marixus addressed the combined forces. For millennia, we prided ourselves on our supposed superiority. Today, we fight alongside humans not as their teachers, but as their students, in warfare, in technology, and most importantly, in compassion. The quantum web suddenly fluctuated, its patterns shifting chaotically. Emergency alarms blared across both fleets. "They're powering up the quantum destabilizers," Sarah announced, her face pale. "The calculations show, by the stars." She looked up at Maria. "If those weapons fire, they'll create a cascade reaction through the quantum web. Every system connected to it will be affected." "How long?" 20 minutes until point of no return. President Chen's hologram appeared on the bridge. "Options?" Sarah took a deep breath. "There might be a way." Luna's last notes. She didn't just discover how to access the quantum web. She found patterns suggesting it's semi-sentient. The precursors didn't build it, they grew it. And if it's alive, it can be reasoned with, Maria finished, understanding dawning. "Or at least warned," Sarah confirmed. "We can try to communicate with it, convince it to shut down rather than allow itself to be weaponized. But someone would need to enter the web itself, using the quantum resonance chambers we developed." "The same technology that killed Luna," President Chen said softly. Sarah nodded. "I'll go. I know the patterns better than anyone." "No." The voice came from an unexpected source. A young Centaurian scientist stepped forward, her crystalline form glowing with determination. It was the child Sarah had saved, now acting as a liaison between human and Alliance scientists. "We go together. Your daughter taught us that the greatest discoveries come from cooperation." The next 15 minutes were a blur of activity. As the fleets held position, Sarah and the Centaurian scientist, whose name translated as Starlight, entered the quantum resonance chamber. Their consciousness merged with the quantum web itself. What they experienced defied conventional description. The web was indeed alive, a vast intelligence operating on principles beyond normal spacetime. Through their combined perspectives, human intuition and Centaurian crystalline perception, they were able to communicate with it. The web showed them visions, its creation by the precursors, its purpose as a living network connecting all sentient species, its pain at being twisted into a weapon. And through Luna's equations, they found its heart. With less than a minute remaining, Sarah made the connection. Not through complex mathematics or advanced technology, but through something simpler. She showed the web Luna's final sketch, her dream of different species learning from each other. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The quantum web pulsed with new energy, systematically shutting down every weaponized system in Draconis space. Their planet-killer weapons went dark. Their warships drifted powerless. But the web didn't stop there. It began sharing knowledge, sending packets of information to both human and Alliance ships. Information about its true nature, about the precursors, about the destiny they had envisioned for all sentient species. When Sarah and Starlight emerged from the resonance chamber, they found both fleets in awe of what had been revealed. The precursors didn't vanish, Sarah explained to the assembled leaders. They evolved, became one with the quantum web itself. They've been waiting for species mature enough to join them. Not through technological superiority, but through wisdom and cooperation. The Draconis leadership, faced with the combined might of the Human Alliance fleet and the web itself, finally surrendered. But it wasn't the victory that mattered most. As the dawn broke over the Draconis home world, representatives from all species gathered to sign not just a peace treaty, but a new accord. One that would change the galaxy forever. "Luna would have loved this," Maria said softly, standing beside Sarah as they watched the proceedings. Sarah touched the crystal sculpture the young Starlight had given her weeks ago. "She did more than we knew. Her curiosity, her compassion, they didn't just advance our technology. They helped us find our true path among the stars." The quantum web pulsed gently around them, no longer a tool of war, but a bridge to a future Luna had glimpsed in her final discoveries. Breaking dawn had come to the galaxy, and with it, the promise of something greater than victory, understanding. 5 years after the Quantum War, the new Galactic Assembly gathered on Earth, a symbolic choice that would have been unthinkable in the old Alliance. The crystalline spires of New Singapore rose around them, their architecture a harmonious blend of human and alien design, much like the society they now represented. Dr. Sarah Hayes stood at the podium, her hair now streaked with gray, addressing representatives from over 300 species. Behind her, a massive quantum web interface pulsed gently, its living patterns a constant reminder of how far they'd come. Today we dedicate the Luna Hayes Institute for Interspecies Research, she began, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. But we're not just commemorating a past loss. We're celebrating a future that my daughter glimpsed in her final discoveries. The Institute was a marvel of joint engineering. Its quantum resonance chambers allowed direct communication with the web consciousness. Research teams composed of multiple species worked together, learning from each other just as Luna had envisioned. In the front row, Captain, now Admiral, Maria Chen sat beside Starlight, who had grown into a respected leader among her people. The young Centaurian's crystalline form had matured, now capable of complex light pattern expressions that humans were only beginning to understand. The war taught us many things, Sarah continued. About power, about pride, about the price of fear. But most importantly, it taught us about potential. Not just technological potential, but the potential for growth, for change, for understanding across the boundaries of species and space. She gestured to a group of children entering the hall, human, Centaurian, Procyon, even Draconis. They carried with them artifacts of their shared culture, art that blended their different perspectives, music that combined their various forms of expression, and scientific projects that built upon each other's strengths. These are tomorrow's children, Sarah said. They don't see aliens and humans. They see friends, colleagues, fellow explorers of the universe's mysteries. They're growing up in a galaxy where cooperation isn't just diplomatic policy, it's a way of life. The quantum web pulsed in response to her words, sharing emotions and memories across the gathered assembly. It had become a true symbiotic partner in their civilization, not a tool to be used but a living library of shared experiences. After the ceremony, Sarah found herself in Luna's old laboratory, now preserved as part of the Institute. Her daughter's notebook lay in a quantum-sealed display, its pages filled with the observations and dreams that had changed the galaxy. "You would have loved this," she whispered, touching the display gently. "She does." The voice came from Starlight, who had followed her. The Centaurian's form shimmered with complex emotions. "The web shows us sometimes when we're deep in communion." Echoes of her thoughts, her hopes. They're part of its consciousness now. Sarah smiled through tears. The old alliance would have kept that knowledge secret, hoarded it for power. And now we share it freely, Starlight agreed. That's her real legacy. Outside, the quantum web hummed with activity as ships from across the galaxy arrived for the Institute's opening. Each vessel's quantum drive was a testament to Luna's final discovery, but they were no longer weapons of war. Instead, they carried scientists, artists, explorers, all eager to contribute to their shared civilization. In orbit, the SS Nemesis, now a research vessel, prepared for its next mission. Its crew was as diverse as the society it served, its laboratories filled with minds working together to unlock new mysteries. Admiral Chen joined Sarah and Starlight, watching the sunset paint the crystalline spires in brilliant colors. "The first deep space expedition leaves tomorrow," she said. "Joint cruise, heading for the galactic core. There are signs of more precursor sites out there." "Luna would have been first in line," Sarah said softly. "She still is," Starlight replied, her crystalline form pulsing with warm light. "Every discovery we make together carries her spirit of curiosity, her dream of unity." As night fell over Earth, the quantum web painted auroras across the sky, a new phenomenon since its awakening. The colors told stories of past and future, of loss and hope, of endings and beginnings. In her pocket, Sarah carried the small crystal sculpture that a young Starlight had given her years ago. Two figures, human and alien, holding hands. It was no longer just an artifact of gratitude, it was a promise kept, a future realized. Tomorrow's children would inherit not just advanced technology or powerful alliances, but something far more precious, a galaxy where curiosity trumped fear, where cooperation replaced competition, where the boundaries between species faded in the light of shared discovery. And somewhere in the quantum web, Luna's last, unfinished sketch continued to pulse with life, no longer a symbol of war, but a beacon guiding them toward the stars, together. The story of humanity's rise among the stars hadn't ended with victory in war. It had only begun with peace among the stars.